I don't know if. Do you think a guy? This is kind of off topic, but not really. Do you think a guy could do that in today's era? Like, or do you just think the guys are moving too fast, too much? Like,
yeah,
what do you think?
The pace is way too fast. But,
yeah, I think some guys would have a hard time doing it, but I also think Wilt had a freakish Wilt had a lot of freakish stuff about him, but like he must have had like a Russell Westbrook motor, like because the dude's just like nonstop. And he told his coach, he's like, I want to play every single minute. Yeah. Guys who played against him said he never looked winded. You know, that's crazy. I mean, and I hate when people always bring that up like that's just a negative, like a gotcha moment. Like, oh, well, Wilt always played like 48 minutes, so of course he's going to be put up good numbers.
I don't know anybody who talks like that. Absolutely.
How many people can play 48 minutes? Like, how many guys could do that? Yeah, well, why is Giannis playing 30 minutes a game? Like, guys get tired. Wilt does it. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah. And another thing is the pace at that point was this fast.
Yeah, or faster.
Yeah, So in that, like, that's definitely an argument for Wilt.
Mm-hmm. I just know, like, I had this problem with Jordan. Like, I don't know if Jordan could play as many minutes today as he did then because of the pace being, you know, the slower pace makes it a lot easier to get away with shit like that, and it makes it a lot easier to protect your body. I think LeBron would have loved that, playing that late 90s, just control the game, doing all that. He started doing that towards when he had to against the Warriors and later in his career anyways.
The whole thing is with Giannis, we even saw that like happen. Once they like increased his minutes, the efficiency wasn't the same. Like when they increased it during the playoffs and stuff. So I mean, even though he did play amazing there in the playoffs, but it's not the same jump like Wilt would do. So, and maybe that's because obviously he's grabbing 25 rebounds off 75 missed shots, and he's just doing putbacks to get his 50 points or whatever. But still, he can take advantage of it.
I don't want to derail this. I don't want to derail this conversation too much from off topic because there's so much I could say to that.
Yeah, I was about to say this guy's trying so hard not to.
I'll find another day.
I'm waiting for the textbook little white kids conversation that you usually get into.
But you see, that's what I'm saying. I'm trying to be respectful. We're talking about the 75 greatest players. What is 100% in that 75 list for me?
Yeah.
So I'm not even arguing. So I'm
Dario. You know that's objectively wrong, though, right? Like it is objectively wrong. They were not all a bunch of short white guys.
No, I know that.
They were not.
Me and Russell actually. All right, so listen.
What is the average height of a player in the 1960s? Do you know that?
Like 6'8", 6'9", something like that. I've seen.
No, they've never been that big. But
yeah, I was about to say it's probably
today it's 6'6". Back then, when they were getting measured with their shoes off, it was 6'5". Okay. So it's like basically the same. Also consider this. Back then, because there was only like 9 to 12 teams in the league, depending on the year, guys are playing each other 12 to 15 times a year. Okay? So that means he's got to play against Bill Russell 15 times.
Do you really want to?
He's got to play against Nate Thurman 15 times. He's got to play against Walt Bellamy 15 times. It's like, at this point, like, it's ridiculous. So anyway. Like I said, I'm not going to get into it.
That's what it was. That was school.
I would really. So, would you say that any of those guys are the same level of talent as a Shaq?
How many guys are on the same level as a Shaq?
All right, no, okay.
I mean, you can only play the guys in front of you, but
Tim Duncan going against David Robinson, going against. If we're talking about guys at that 75 level,
Bill Russell was 6'10" and one of the greatest defensive players of all time. Yeah. I'm not sure if you know this, but he was an Olympian leaper at one point, or could have been an Olympian leaper. At one point, he was measured with the third highest vertical leap in the entire United States. Bill Russell, 6'10". And that's who's defending Wilt Chamberlain 14, 15 times a year around that time. Nate Thurman, have you just seen pictures of Nate Thurman? He looks like he's a freaking Marvel superhero. The dude is jacked. Okay, so I mean,
file has to be surgically removed.
So, if someone was betting you money, and be honest, if someone was betting you just straight up money, how many times is Shaq gonna ragdoll both of them? Throw them all around the court and dunk on their neck. How many times is Shaq gonna
Nate Thurmond? Look up a photo of Nate Thurmond and tell me how many times Shaq's going to ragdoll that guy. Not very much.
I've seen Shaq
tell you not very.
Look up bad things to like.
Look up Nate Thurmond, please.
I got you.
In NBA history.
This is what we're about. All right, hold on. Oh my God!
Look at those arms.
Now this guy is one of the 4 players in NBA history to get a quadruple double, and that was late in his career.
Yeah.
Okay. They weren't tracking blocks for like 75% of this guy's career. Okay. Otherwise, he'd have a lot more. This guy's one of the most underrated players of all time.
Why is he so swole?
Call this guy. This dude's 6'10". This dude's 6'10" and was defending Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell all the time. You tell this dude he's a small white plumber. Tell him to his face, please.
But I didn't even say it. I haven't said it in this video. That doesn't. I can't.
You haven't said plumber. You talked about like small white dudes.
The small white plumber thing. Did I after Wilt's legacy breakdown? Did I not?
Now you pick the shovel back up. Now you're digging again. Because Nate Thurman's scaring you.
I've changed. Like I've respected a little more after doing Wilt's legacy breakdown. I did start saying, okay, he had at least some type of competition. I just don't think when you're talking about Shaq's level of competition in the 90s, that was like the era of the big men. And he was not going against those kind of big men. And that's why I feel like if Shaq was there, Wilt wouldn't look like that. It would be Shaq and Wilt looking the same. And like the whole thing is Wilt was definitely more athletic and all this other stuff. But I just think Shaq would literally body Wilt. Like,
I'm not going to argue that the 90s was the greatest era of the big man ever. All I'm saying is the legitimacy of the competition in the 60s is comparable. They were really good, especially at the big man position. There was a lot of really good guys. There wasn't as many names, but again, there wasn't as many teams. So these guys had to play each other a lot. It's like a lot of that talent is now condensed. And so guys who would maybe be a starter in a 30-team league are just backups in a 10-team league. Yeah. You know, so that's something to consider too.
You think this guy was on the juice? I have more pictures I look at him. I'm just like, this guy.
When did they invent the juice?
That's another question.
Well, that's a long time ago.
The Russians had it back in the day.
70s. In the 70s, they were on the juice.
Yeah, the juice was around. The juice was it's a legitimate thing. It might be primitive, but they had it.
Yeah. Finding out
that motherfucker had it because that guy's arms were.
Okay, so if he's on the juice, doesn't that help my case?
No, it's got nothing. I had nothing to do with that.
One more thing before
look at the veins in his biceps.
We also mentioned that the level of efficiency in that era was really bad.
Yes.
So don't you cannot tell me that Wilt Chamberlain isn't having one of his little white teammates miss a jump shot or a layup and him not getting the rebound and laying it up all easy. You can't tell me.
Oh, no, 100%. Dude, there can be a middle ground because I just acknowledge with rebounds, those stats are inflated for sure. And even his 100-point game, like the guy who was supposed to be starting on the opposing team wasn't able to play because he was hungover and throwing up before the game. So Wilt dropped 100. So again, Wilt's awesome, but they also didn't have their starting center. So they threw in this other dude, and he just got absolutely destroyed. I mean, so it can be both. Like, it could be incredibly impressive, while also, if he played today, he's not going to average 50. Like, I get that. The best of the best, they could play in the league today, and they could still be awesome.
Yeah.
The guys who are like, on the bench, they're not making the NBA today.
That's why I came up with the archetype thing for Bill Russell, is because I felt like if I could trace him through NBA history, it makes him more credible.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys exist. Like Jerry West is another guy. He exists in other. You can follow his play style throughout NBA history.
Yeah, but there is certain guys like Bob Cousy looks like he was one of the greatest ball handlers ever within the confinements of how he had to play. Like, he looks so awkward dribbling around, like never putting his hand on the side of the ball. But when you acknowledge that, like, putting your hand on the side of the ball was like carrying back then. That was traveling. If Iverson was trying to do his thing, he would lead the league in turnovers by far.
Yeah.
And so it's like some of these guys look less skilled, but you can't play the game the way like you couldn't play it that way back then.
They get Tatum bad for that. There's always videos of Tatum with the ball like this under his hand. I don't know why specifically him, but whenever I watch videos on like
that's wow,
old school carrying, it's like it's always Jason Tatum with his hand under the ball like this. I don't know why. But
yeah, as long as you make it look pretty nowadays, they're not going to call it. This is hot. Like, make it look smooth. They won't call it.